Welcome to the Brent Gove podcast with co-host Eric Lawfolm. We are building 1 million agents in 100 countries in 10 years. Now, here's your host, Brent Gove.
And welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Brent Gove, and I have my special co-host and partner on the podcast, Eric Lawfolm. Eric, how you doing today?
Hey, Brent, I am doing amazing. I'm super excited about our topic today. We're talking about the power of life-changing events. So get us started off with some ideas.
Absolutely. Now, this isn't a car crash. This isn't when your plane goes down and you have a brush with death and you're like, you reevaluate your life. You should always reevaluate your life. That's not really what we're talking about when we say life-changing events, like having a baby or getting married or retiring from 40 years in a career. We're talking about events, man. We're talking about stuff by John Maxwell, Zig Ziglar, Vern Harnish. He has a Scaling Up conference. I remember the first time I heard Vern speak, I took more notes on that man than anyone in my life. Every sentence was pure gold, all about scaling your business. So good. He has a conference every year called Scaling Up. Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, the Create Conference, by Ken Jocelyn. There's just so many things I've always gone to for 40 years that has helped me have breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. And I needed a lot of them. And if you're like Eric and you're like myself, you need breakthroughs in your family life. I remember when Viral Workman Business Solutions talked about, what is it? What good is it to be super successful in your real estate company or any business for that matter, and you blow up your family because you are so driven, so type A, so goal-oriented that you succeeded and you made $1 million or you made millions of dollars or maybe $250 million or $1 billion. But if you tank your family, if you lose the relationship and the respect of your children and your spouse, your husband, your wife, it wasn't worth it. And I don't think anyone will say, yeah, it was worth it. I destroyed my family, but I'm super rich and it was worth it. I don't think that person exists. And so, but I learned that from, Viral Workman, I mean, there's so many great things out there. So I want to hear you before we dive deep into this topic, Eric. How profound have events been in your life? I mean, you were at one point one of the top Tony Robbins guys in the nation back in the late 90s. And you've always gone and been on the, student of life mode. So talk to us a little bit about that, your own experience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I'll share a breakthrough I had at an event that you put on. So,
Really?
yeah, and I don't remember if it was Dallas or somewhere else, but it was one of the build events, and you had Gary Brecka. And
Oh, come
so
on.
Gary Brecka came and talked about health. And what was so impactful on me is here's a gentleman who's older than me, and he's just bouncing up and down, totally energized. And I'm like watching going, man, I feel like I need to take a nap. I've got so much fatigue going into my life right now. And it was so impactful just to see who he is. And so it got me on this health journey. And I made so many changes in my health.
Come on.
I know you're a big water guy. So I got my water here, and just I never used to drink water. I was like, soda guy, caffeine, this sugary iced teas. And so I have more energy right now than I've had since I was in my 20s because of an event that you put on. And I wasn't there for health. And then out comes Brecka and I got all fired up. So there's something that occurs in the energy there. Like seeing him and how energetic he was totally different than like a Zoom or a podcast. It was just this amazing thing. And I've had other examples of that as well, but I'll just start off with that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. Just think if you had missed that, you'd still be sucking down sodas, Mountain Dews, Pepsi, slamming coffees and all sugary iced teas, like you said, and that stuff will cut 10 years off your life. And not just that, it's instead of lifespan, think of health span. You're also going to be so much healthier, so much more energized. And so we're making changes, but it's maybe the health at that event. I know in 1999, I went to a Craig Proctor event. Another event is called the Craig Proctor Super Conference in Toronto, Canada. It was in Realtor magazine, realtor.com. They have a magazine they put out. And my neighbor goes, I'm going to this, you're coming with me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And, it was Friday night and he talked me into going the next day, like 3,000 miles, however far it is from Northern California to Toronto. And I went and I met a guy. The event was great. All the stuff I learned, marketing, databases, how to leverage the whole thing, how to run a highly functional team. But really, one of the most powerful things was meeting Jay Kinder in 1999. He was the youngest guy, one of the youngest people there. He was also the #1 Coldwell Banker agent in the world. So because I was there and I was told to shadow someone that you would like to do some 670 homes a year, 660, I don't remember the numbers, a lot out of Oklahoma. So they said, go fly somewhere, meet someone you respect and learn, like watch and copy Success Leaves Clues. So I did that. And I went from 40 sales a year to 400. But what if I hadn't gone? What if my neighbor hadn't called me? I say yes to events. I've been to UPW with Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within. I've been to 10X with Grant Cardone. I went to the Keller Williams events. I went to the Remax events. I was constantly going to the events, and it chips away at you in a good way. It's like, man, if it's not your health, it's your wealth. It's learning about, I met a guy named Matt Plummer who's really working with me and helping me out a lot. That was another event I went to. Then Jay Kinder at Craig Proctor. And all of a sudden, you get the 5 major areas of your life. You got faith, you got family, you got fitness, you got finance, and you got fun. And all of a sudden you start to kind of really expand all those. And like, well, I'm really good with my finances. I'm really good with my business and I'm really good with my fitness, but my family is a mess. And all of a sudden you hear people speak to you and you're like, you know what? I got to step up and be passionate about my family. Or I work 24/7. I'm working 7 days a week, 19 hours a day, burnout. And you learn to actually have fun and to take a day off. So any thoughts on some of the stuff I just said there, Eric?
Yeah, I had 2 things I wanted to share about 2 events I went to. And one is interesting, you mentioned Jay Kinder, because I was at an event with Jay Kinder at a Jay Abraham event back in the late 1990s. And no, it was 2000s. And Jay was there and we connected and I learned so much from Jay Abraham, and he's had a huge influence on how I run my business. And then I was at this other event called the Ultimate Experience, where Steve Hardison, who's the coach out of Arizona that I paid the big bucks to work with, and he said, see the gold in others. And what he meant was, oftentimes we're so critical of other people. We can see what other people are doing wrong. And he's like, see the gold in others. And I was like, okay, see the gold in my ex-wife. And I had only been seeing all my hurt and my anger and my frustration, even though I'd been divorced for many years. And so I wrote her this email, Brent, and it said, I want to acknowledge you for this and this and this, and you helped me in this way.
Wow.
And it transformed our relationship. And it was just so powerful to do that. And now I do my best to lean in with anybody, right? Anybody that I maybe don't see eye to eye. And what can I see that's great in them? And it was because this one statement that Steve said at that event that just landed with me. And so, events have been transformational in my life. And I know that they've been really instrumental, not only for you, but also with EXP, because you've done so many EXP events that you put on, these world-class events where you bring in people like Tony Robbins and these amazing speakers. And so I know that's been instrumental in your growth.
Absolutely. And I'm so hung up on what you said, see the gold in others. It's so good. See the gold in your teenage daughter. Sometimes your kids go through a crazy spell and you could focus on what they're doing wrong. And I don't know about you, but I did some crazy stuff in high school as a teenager. And I was into sports, but I was also into drinking beer on the weekends. And when you teenagers and alcohol, you're going to have some crazy experiences. And so your children could be doing some things you're like, oh my gosh. But you got to see the gold, see the good, praise what you want, and focus on that rather than just taking your finger and poking them in the chest again and again and again and again for what they're not doing, what they're not saying, what they're not believing, the bad choices they're making, and then you'll drive them away from you. And so I love the fact that you wrote that email to your ex-wife that you'd been married to many, many years ago, but it transformed. Yeah. That is beautiful. I believe people could transform their marriage, their relationship with some people actually have a grandparent or a mom or a dad. Write that letter to your dad, write that letter and look for the gold and just talk about the gold. We know it. We know that maybe your dad has really dropped the ball. Okay. Your mom has dropped the ball. Whoever it is, your son, your daughter, focus on the gold. That was really good. I'd never heard that. And I like that. Thank you for sharing that. So here's what I'm going to wrap up today with. I'm glad that you're going to Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins, or maybe you joined Platinum Partners with Tony Robbins, or you're in the 10X Masterminds with Gary Brecker, or Brandon Bouchard, or Gary V. I'm Pace Morby. I'm glad you're Ed Milet. I'm glad you're doing that stuff, and you should. But here's the deal. If you really want to succeed at a high level, you need to lead an organization, whether that's solar, whether that's real estate, whether that's mortgage or escrow and title, or a roofing organization or crown molding organization. Like if you have a business, like Elon Musk leads an organization in both SpaceX and Tesla and auto manufacturing. So if you leaders leading leaders, well, you could go to those things, try to teach it all. But what if your key leaders were with you and they got to get that baptism by fire for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and you brought them with you? So one of my secret sauces was not only do I attend, I bring people with me. I've been doing that for 40 years. And so I'll give you an example. I just had a gentleman reach out to me yesterday, Eric, as we're wrapping up here. He says, hey, I'm coming to Cabo. I got my ticket. It's March 11th through the 16th in Cabo. We do it every year. It's at the Hyatt Ziva, 1,100 superstars from EXP coming in. Ed Milet's flying in. Gary Brecka's coming in. Pace Morby's coming in. Tom Ferry's coming in. Glenn Sanford, Leo Preja. I mean, anyone who's anyone. This is the who's who of EXP and other brokerages. We have superstars from Keller Williams and Sotheby's and Compass. And we have people from Real and EXP coming who are, thinking about looking at us, and from Realty One and HomeSmart and commercial brokerages and luxury and Christie's Fine Auction House. They're all coming, and we're all about helping people get to the next level, and they can go back to Remax and prosper. There's $1 trillion industry there. There's room for everybody, but they're all going to be there. So he goes, Brent, I bought my ticket. I'm coming. I'm like, that's awesome. And he goes, now I'm bringing 2 of my key leaders. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But here's the deal. I believe if I have the numbers right, he has a couple hundred people in his organization. And the truth is he should be bringing about 50. And so I'm going to actually call him tonight and talk to him and say, when I went to my first event, I literally, I've been in EXP for about 6 months, and I showed up with 19 people that I personally brought. 14 had already brought to EXP, and about 5 guests that were thinking about coming to EXP. So I brought 19 personally. Okay. And then there's a saying, the speed leader determines the pace of the pack. My organization saw how hard I had worked, that the commercial people brought commercial people, the luxury people brought luxury people. In other words, your group will not do what you tell them. Your organization, your sales organization will do what they see you doing. You could, it's the old saying, Eric, your actions speak so loud, I can hardly hear what you're saying. I'll say it again. Your actions speak so loud, I can hardly hear what you're saying. So I work so hard. If they need help paying for a plane ticket, I chip in. I'll split it with you. They're like, God, the room, it's $250 a night. And I'll split it with you. I'll pay $125. You got to go. I'm going to put my money, I'm going to invest in you. I brought 19, but those people saw how hard I worked to get them there. That they brought another about 70, 71. I brought 90 people to my first event. And that's why today I have tens and tens and tens of thousands of people in my sales organization, because the events are transformative. The events, people like, like we were just at EXPCon in Miami, and we heard a gentleman speak who had the #1 restaurant in the world. And it was life-changing, the power of life-changing events. It was called Unreasonable Hospitality, a book he wrote. It's out of New York. And they voted this guy. He says, every restaurant has great service, has a great ambiance, they have great chefs. He goes, that's not how I became the #1 restaurant in the world. We went above and beyond at every possible touch point. Like when they park the car in the parking lot, what are they experiencing? When they walk up to the restaurant, what are they experiencing? What are they seeing, feeling, touching, smelling? When they touch the handle to the door, what does the handle to the door feel like? When they enter the lobby and they're being greeted by the hostess, is there a big old podium between you and them? Or do we remove the podium, have an iPad with beautiful, comfortable couches, and we sit them down for a second if we need to until their table's ready? Then we bring them to the table or bring them somewhere where they can have. They went through the entire, it's called touch points, but I'd never heard anything like that. And I just learned that last month. It changed my life. I'm going to up my game in the area of hospitality, in the area of creating magic moments, blowing people's minds. And it was so much even beyond that. You had to be there, And so, here's the deal. You can go to a powerful, life-changing weekend with John Maxwell on leadership and then come back to try to tell people. But what if your leaders had been there with you? So the key is, bring a group. I'll give you an example. When I went to Keller Williams, I was there in 2009, my first year. I'm going to my first Keller Williams family reunion. It was in Louisiana. It was in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, and the convention center were all there. So I wanted to bring people. I know the power of events to change people, to anchor them in, to help them go to the next level. So I booked some rooms, extra rooms. I just didn't get my room. I booked some extra rooms. You know how many rooms I booked, Eric?
How many?
60.
Wow.
I booked 60 rooms, and then I went to work getting
Wow.
people to go. I had some pressure. I had to pay for that. Be very careful. Now, I've been doing this a while, and by the way, the cost of that, if you book it for 3 nights, so 60 times 3 nights, that's 180 room nights. 180, but I booked the hotel in downtown New Orleans off of Bourbon. It was a famous hotel, great setup. I always booked the headquarter hotel, and I planned way ahead. Do you know, and I'll end with this, you know what I just wrapped up? Business planning for my Cabo event in 2027. 25 is already done, and everybody's coming. I talked about that, but 2026 is already done, and I'm nailing down 2027. Are you thinking 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years in the future? I am, and other leaders are, but I learned to do that by events. So again, I want to, whether you're going to build this summer, or you're going to a Tony Robbins event in New York, or I'm going to be in Las Vegas in March for the very last Growth Con ever. I'm bringing people, because I don't want to just have my life changed. I want people to experience transformation. And it's sometimes it's who they meet, a speaker they heard. In your case, it was Gary Brecka, a speaker you heard. In one case, it was meeting Jay Kender. Another time, it's hearing Vern Harnish just blow your mind. And it's a variety of things, and it creates the mosaic of your life. It's like those old-fashioned country quilts and those little squares, right? And they get all these little square patches. They look kind of hokey, but a lot of times they're the most comfortable thing. You watch a movie, you throw it over you and your wife or the kids, and you get some popcorn and you just wrap it. It's the mosaic of your life, man. It's what makes you you, but you gotta go. Get on the plane, book the room, bring people, learn to be a promoter, and then you're going to create an organization that can lift you to heights you never dreamed of. So this is my message today on the power of life-changing, transformative events. Any final words you want to throw in there, Eric?
Yeah, I wanted to spotlight 2 really key things that you said to make sure that people heard it. And one is Brent's planning for 2027. Wow. Right? Like, we're right now, as of this recording, we're November of 2024. And most people, if they're really thinking, they're thinking 2025, and Brent's thinking 2027. That's a very powerful insight. The second one is there's levels of an event. So level 1 is get yourself to the event. Level 2 is get a couple people to the event. Level 3 is get a bunch of people to the event. Yes. And in some cases, get a bunch of people to the event, and get a bunch of people that possibly could join you at some point in the future with your EXP business, because maybe you never thought of it like that. And that could be a shift in your thinking. And if it is, it could change the next 10 years of your life on that one little insight that Brent just shared with you guys. It's a huge, huge insight. As I always share with you guys at the end of these calls, please listen to the podcast multiple times to put these best ideas into your subconscious. And also, please share the podcast with your team and with your organization so they can benefit from these powerful ideas that were shared with you guys today.
Thank you, Eric. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on the next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so here's the deal. We have incredible information, video content on my YouTube channel. Go over there and make sure you subscribe. And it's vital that you ring the bell. If you ring that bell every time I put out new content, it's actually going to notify you, and you can get the latest and greatest of what's happening at EXP. Now, don't forget to like me on Facebook so you can also get that content, and then follow me on Instagram. We're hitting everybody high, low, and in between. We're trying to get the information out there so you can build big businesses, revenue share organizations. So go to YouTube right now. Please subscribe and ring that bell. Like me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. We'll see you out there.